Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a concept that our source material calls one of the most fascinating and, seemingly bizarre beliefs in all of Christianity.
That's a pretty bold statement, right? Preposterous. That's the exact phrase our source uses to get our attention. It really highlights just how controversial and mysterious this topic is. So, what exactly is this belief that seems so outlandish to some, but is held as a blessed hope by so many others?
For this explainer, we're going to be unpacking the theological framework laid out in one specific book, The Rapture by Chuck Missler, to really understand the logic and the reasoning behind this belief, as he presents it.
Okay, so let's start at square one. What are we even talking about here? What is the rapture?
Well, at its very core, the idea is this. At some point in the future, in a single instantaneous moment, all true Christian believers around the globe are going to be snatched, literally taken right off the earth. One moment they're here, the next they're gone, leaving everyone else behind.
So where does this idea even come from? Well, according to our source, it all goes back to a promise Jesus made to his disciples on the night of the Last Supper. He basically said, hey, I'm leaving, but I'm coming back for a very specific reason, to get you and bring you to where I am.
But here's the thing. To really grasp what that promise means, our source says you can't just read it at face value. You have to look at it through the lens of an ancient tradition. And this analogy, well, it's presented as the key that unlocks the whole thing.
So the source frames the entire relationship between Christ and his followers, the church, using the model of an ancient Galilean or Jewish wedding ceremony. And this isn't just a nice little metaphor, it's presented as a direct prophetic pattern.
Let's break this down. The tradition had a few key stages. After the betrothal, the groom would leave, go back to his father's house, and prepare a home for them. And then, and this is the crucial part, he would return for his bride at a totally unexpected time with a shout to whisk her away to the wedding feast. That element of surprise is absolutely central here.
And here's how our source lines it all up. Christ is the bridegroom, the church, all believers, is the bride. The purchase price was his sacrifice. He went to his Father's house, which is heaven, to prepare a place. And that surprise return to get his bride, well, that's the rapture. It all fits together like a puzzle.
So with that wedding picture in our minds, let's look at the actual event itself. What do the texts say is really going to happen on that day?
Now, you might have heard people say the word rapture isn't even in the Bible. And technically, the English word isn't. But our source points out that it comes from the Latin word rapiemar, which was used to translate the original Greek word harpazo. And harpazo means to seize, to snatch away, to be caught up. And this, right here, is the core verse describing the whole thing. The key phrase is caught up. See? That's the harpazo we were just talking about. And notice the location. It's super important. The meeting doesn't happen on Earth. It happens in the air.
So it's not just one big, chaotic event. The Bible, according to our source, lays out a very specific order of events. There's a shout, a trumpet sounds. Believers who have already died are resurrected first, and then the believers who are still alive are caught up with them, and they're all transformed, bam, in an instant.
Okay, so here's where it can get really confusing, and it's a huge point of debate. How does the rapture fit in with that other big prophesied event, the second coming? Our source argues they are two completely separate, distinct events.
And the distinction is crucial. In the rapture, Christ comes secretly for his believers, meeting them in the air. But at the second coming, he returns publicly with his believers, coming all the way to the earth. You could say one is a rescue, and the other is a reign.
So, to figure out the timing of all this, our source points to one specific prophecy way back in the Old Testament, in the book of Daniel. It's presented as the master key, the thing that lays out the entire end times calendar. So this prophecy basically lays out history in weeks of years. 69 of those weeks, it says, are already fulfilled. Then there's this big, long, indeterminate gap, which is the age we're living in right now. And after this gap, there's just 1 week, one final 7-year period left to go. And here's where the rapture fits into that timeline. According to this framework, the rapture is what ends the gap. It removes the church from the earth right before that final chaotic 7-year period begins. The rapture is the event that starts the clock on that final week.
Okay, so what's the point? If the rapture could happen before any of those other signs, what does that actually mean for people living their lives today?
The key word our source emphasizes is imminence, and that just means it could happen at any moment without any warning. There are no other prophecies on the checklist that need to be fulfilled first. In this view, it is the very next event on the prophetic calendar.
And look, this takes us full circle, right back to that wedding analogy. The bride had no idea when the groom was coming back. His return was a total surprise. So the whole point, the central instruction, was for her to always be ready.
Now, the source warns against two big mistakes or extremes to avoid. On one side, there is rapturitis, getting so focused on being rescued that you become passive. On the other side is rapture mania, an obsession with trying to predict dates. The real focus, it says, is to live productively and occupy until he comes.
So ultimately, the big takeaway isn't about escaping the world or cracking some code about the future. It's that this blessed hope is supposed to inspire a certain way of living right now, a life filled with purpose, expectancy, and hope.
And that leaves us with the one final, thought-provoking question that this entire framework is really designed to ask. The goal isn't to figure out when it's all going to happen. The goal is to get you to ask yourself, are you ready?